Series, Spiritual Awakening, 5 Signs and Secrets to Transform Your Life. Episode 3, Part 1, How Your Mind is Reprogrammed During Spiritual Awakening, Secrets No One Tells You. If you feel like your life is changing, it's not a coincidence. What you call mental chaos, thoughts looping over and over, is actually your mind being reprogrammed. Every limiting belief, every fear, every old habit is being erased and replaced with something more powerful. And the 5th moment we'll look at today is the one that turns pain into a superpower that very few people understand. You're going through a spiritual awakening, and you have this feeling a bit unsettling, right? As if your own mind is being updated, but without you clicking accept. Thoughts that don't feel like you suddenly appear out of nowhere, your oldest certainties are collapsing, and you sense some kind of invisible battle taking place inside you. Don't worry. It's not just your imagination. This is a real, deep process, and it can feel destabilizing when you don't understand what's happening. This phase of deep inner cleansing, where the mind loses all its reference points, often brings confusion and fear with it, and you're not the only one going through it. In this video, we're going to lift the veil on what's happening behind this reprogramming. We'll put together the pieces of a fascinating puzzle by connecting 3 worlds that seem completely opposed: Freud's depth psychology, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP, and the ancient wisdom of a verse from the Bible. Backhand index pointing right, whatever your beliefs are, see this as a metaphor. I promise, by the end of this video, you'll not only understand what's happening to you, but you'll also have a roadmap to become a conscious and active participant in your own transformation. We'll first see how your mind was programmed without you realizing it, then how you can interact with that program to update it, and finally how all of this is actually a spiritual quest that's been around for a long time. Part 1, The Unconscious Software. Freud's Foundations. Why does reprogramming start with chaos? During awakening, your mind seems to become uncontrollable. Old patterns resurface. Fears, doubts, frustrations, painful memories. Bandler, the father of NLP, calls this the update trigger. Freud would call it unconscious resistance, a conflict between who you become and who you thought you were. And the Bible speaks of renewal. Romans 12, verse 2, Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. What you feel as chaos is exactly what prepares your brain to receive a higher version of yourself. To understand how your mind is reprogrammed, you first need to see how it was programmed in the first place. And for that, we have to go back to the man who first mapped this inner world, Sigmund Freud. Even though some of his theories have been debated since, his contribution is essential. He revealed the idea that you are not entirely in control of yourself. Freud used the image of an iceberg to explain the mind. The small tip above the water is your conscious mind, your current thoughts and decisions, but the massive hidden part underwater is the unconscious. For him, this hidden part is a vast reservoir of instincts, desires, and repressed memories that, without you realizing it, drive most of your reactions, emotions, and choices. This true operating system is built during childhood. Freud imagined your psyche as a constant dialogue between 3 characters. There is ID, the seat of your raw impulses that wants everything immediately. There's the superego, the inner voice that records all rules, parental and social restrictions, acting like a judge. And in the middle is the ego, your conscious self, trying to mediate between the desires of one, the orders of the other, and the demands of reality, to avoid suffering or anxiety. The ego mainly uses one mechanism: repression, painful memories, shameful desires, overwhelming emotions. All of that gets pushed out of consciousness and stored in the basement of the unconscious. But it doesn't disappear. It continues to act in the background through symptoms, slips of the tongue, dreams, or those recurring patterns you keep repeating. Spiritual awakening is often the moment when that dam starts to crack. The walls the ego built begin to break. Everything that was repressed rises to the surface to finally be seen, felt, and released. This return of unconscious material creates the impression of being invaded by external forces, as if an invisible hand were reprogramming your thoughts. In reality, it's your own hidden story knocking at the door. You're not losing control. You're simply becoming aware of the part of you that has always had it in secret. Part 2, The Reprogramming Method and NLP Tools. There are signs of reprogramming, awareness of patterns. First, I'll list the signs of your programming. Then we'll go deeper. The first sign of reprogramming is that you observe your own patterns. You notice your automatic reactions are no longer automatic. Jung called this the process of individuation, freeing yourself from imposed patterns. Every recurring thought, every unconscious fear becomes conscious, and that's exactly where change begins. The second sign, your old beliefs begin to fall apart. What you believed about yourself, about others, about the world, starts to crack. I'll explain this in more detail later in the video. The spiritual purpose, the wisdom of Romans 12, verse 2. Bob Proctor calls it a paradigm shift. The Bible puts it this way: Behold, I am doing a new thing. Isaiah 43, verse 19. You may feel fear, confusion, but this is exactly what makes room for a greater truth. And here's the paradox. The more you lose control, the more you move toward your true self. Sign 3. Amplified and revealing emotions. Third sign, your emotions become more intense. Anger, sadness, joy, everything feels stronger. Freud would say, unresolved emotions resurface. Jung would add, the shadow reveals itself. This is exactly what allows your mind to readjust. Emotions are not an obstacle. They are the engine of your evolution. The question is, can you stay present with them without trying to escape? The fourth sign will show you how this intensity can turn into strength. Sign 4, synchronicities and revelations. The fourth sign is fascinating. Coincidences, synchronicities, almost too perfect to be random. Jung called this the principle of acausality. The universe is speaking to you. You'll start noticing signs everywhere, encounters, books, phrases heard by chance. It's your mind receiving the next version of your programming. And the fifth sign, the one that turns all pain into power, is coming next. Sign 5, turning pain into power. The fifth sign, what you once saw as weakness turns into strength. Every pain, every difficulty, every fear transforms into creative energy. Tony Robbins says, the moment of power is when you convert pain into action. The Bible reminds us, all things work together for good for those who love God. Romans 8, verse 28. What you saw as obstacles are actually stepping stones toward your new self. And here's the secret. Very few people realize this process is what makes an awakening truly powerful. Sign 6. Inner calm in the middle of chaos. While everything changes around you, a strange stability emerges within you. You realize your calm no longer depends on external circumstances. Philippians 4, verse 7. The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding. This paradoxical peace is a sign that your mind has truly integrated the reprogramming. But that's not all. The final sign reveals why you are now ready for full transformation. Sign 7. Awareness and choice. You become aware of your choices, your reactions, and your role in the world. You are no longer a victim of your old patterns. You can observe, choose, and create. This is true inner freedom. This is where transformation takes root. However, in episode 4, we will explore why this freedom can sometimes create fear and intense loneliness, and how to navigate it without losing your balance. Now, let's get to the core. Do you recognize those moments when you realize your thinking is changing, that you're thinking differently? If so, take note of it mentally. You'll need it. If Freud gave us the map of the unconscious territory, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP, gives us a toolbox to navigate it. Developed in the 1970s by Richard Bandler, a computer scientist, and John Grinder, a linguist, NLP is a very practical approach that focuses on the how rather than the why. How does your mind work, and how can you change it to feel better? The basic principle of NLP is that your body and mind are one single system. Your experiences are encoded through your 5 senses and the words you use. The word programming can sound a bit scary, but it should be understood like in computing. If your unconscious is the operating system running background programs, NLP helps you create an interface to interact with it. It teaches you to become the gardener of your own mind. Here are some concrete tools to take part in this reprogramming. Reframing. The art of changing your perspective on a situation to give it new meaning. You don't change the event, you change the frame. A failure becomes a learning experience. A fear is reframed as a protective intention. This breaks thought patterns and turns obstacles into stepping stones. Anchoring, a process that links a powerful internal state, like confidence or calm, to a simple physical gesture, clenching your fist, touching your thumb and index finger. By creating positive anchors, you can learn to change your emotional state on command instead of being controlled by moods. This is a way to take back control of your reactions. Visualization. NLP strongly emphasizes visualization because it builds new neural pathways. By vividly imagining yourself succeeding, overcoming fear, or feeling good, you are literally preparing your nervous system for that reality. Your brain doesn't easily distinguish between what is intensely imagined and what is actually experienced. It's a way to pre-program success and inner peace. Spiritual awakening breaks old programs. NLP gives you the keys to consciously write new ones. Instead of undergoing this reprogramming passively, you learn the language of your unconscious to collaborate with it. You move from being a passenger in a somewhat chaotic car to being the driver who knows where they're going. Part 3. The Spiritual Purpose, the Wisdom of Romans 12, verse 2. Okay, we've looked at the software with Freud and the method to update it with NLP. But what is the point of all this? Here we shift from psychology to spirituality, and an ancient wisdom from 2,000 years ago suddenly illuminates everything. In his epistle to the Romans, chapter 12, verse 2, the Apostle Paul writes, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Setting aside the strictly religious context for a moment, let's look at the psychological and universal meaning of this sentence. Do not conform to the pattern of this world. This is a direct call to stop running on autopilot. Stop being passively shaped by what society expects of you, by family conditioning, or by the unconscious programs we saw with Freud. This is the first step of awakening. Realizing you are running programs that are no longer yours. But be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This is the heart of it. The original Greek word for transformed is metamorpho, which gives us metamorphosis. It's not a small adjustment, but a complete change from the inside out. And how do you do it? By the renewing of your mind, or in other translations, the renewal of your thinking, which is exactly what NLP proposes. Questioning automatic thoughts, creating new perspectives. This ancient phrase is a perfect description of what we now call conscious reprogramming, so that you may discern what is good, pleasing, and perfect. And the goal of this transformation? Discernment. It's not about following external, abstract divine will, but about developing your own ability to feel what is truly aligned with who you are, what is good for you, what brings you joy, and what expresses your true self. That is a spiritual intelligence. What this verse reveals is that this mental reprogramming process you're experiencing is not a psychological glitch. It is an essential stage of the spiritual path. It is a shift from a life that is endured, driven by unconscious programming, to a life that is chosen, guided by a renewed awareness, aligned with something much greater. So this feeling of being secretly reprogrammed, we've seen it as a 3-step process. First, you become aware of the background program, this unconscious operating system, so well described by Freud. Then you discover you are not powerless. Approaches like NLP give you tools to actively participate in this update. And finally, you understand this is not just psychological repair, but a true spiritual metamorphosis, a renewal of your mind, bringing you toward greater clarity and alignment. What once felt like a chaotic, external force is actually your own consciousness calling you to grow. Confusion is just the fog before the sunrise. Deconstruction is what happens right before rebuilding something much stronger and more truly you, to make this more than just words. I invite you to a small exercise. Right now, take 1 minute to identify a limiting thought that keeps looping in your mind. That broken record like, "I'll never make it," "I'm not allowed to," or "it's too hard for me." Notice it without judging yourself. And now, consciously choose a new thought to replace it. For example, "I am learning how to succeed." "I allow myself to try." Or, "I take it one step at a time." Repeat this new sentence. Feel it. There, you've just taken the first step of your conscious reprogramming. If this exploration resonated with you, subscribe so you don't miss the next videos where we'll continue building bridges between science and spirituality. And I'd love to read you. Share in the comments the realization you had today. What thought did you choose to renew? Remember, you are the architect of your inner world. Take care of yourself. See you soon, and may God watch over you.